Welcome back. Let's talk about the solution to this application. Remember, we're making 32 boxes that start with some initial color and then randomly change to a new color, or one of those boxes randomly change to a new color every 300 milliseconds. And so far I've got my starter code. It's just got a render method and it's got props of all the different colors that I can choose from. The first thing I'm going to do is just define a function that will give me another one of those random colors. Okay, so there we have it. It's just a function inside of my component. It doesn't really have anything to do with rendering, but it will look through my props and get me a random color. Next, let's create the constructor. Now I know that I want to assign state in my constructor, and I know I need 32 pieces of state. And the only state that I really care about for each one of these boxes is just what color it is. So it's just going to be 32 strings. So this is just my standard constructor. And now I'm going to create an array with 32 elements in it. Let's not hard code 32, so I'll make a constant up here. Okay, and now to create my array, I'll do a little bit of trickery here. So I'll make my boxes variable, and then I can use the array constructor to say I want an array with num boxes, 32 boxes, and then I'll fill it so that I can use map. And then for every element that I map, I want to return a random color. So rather than making a function and invoking this.getRandomColor, I can just pass the function directly. But the trick there is if I do that, this will change, the keyword this will change to something else when it's invoked within map. So the second parameter to map is what you want the keyword this to be. And in this case, I want the keyword this to be the app component. So I'll pass in this. All right, now I have an array with 32 strings that represent a color of each box. Next step is just to create my state. And again, I'm using the object shorthand notation here. And now that I've got my state set up, let's think about creating those boxes. So just to be lazy, I'm going to make a stateless functional component up above here. So this is the outline of my stateless functional component. And I want to return some JSX here that renders my box. And a box is just a div with some styling. And the only styling that's going to be variable is the background color. So actually, let me switch this back to using curly braces. And then inside of here, I'll first create a style object. And then I'll grab all of these styles. So the width and the height of my box are going to be set. It's going to be inline block. And then I'm going to use the prop, except not this. I'm going to use the color that's passed in from a prop. So remember, this box is going to take in one prop, which is the color that that box should be. And we're using that color inside of this style object. Now all I have to do is return that div with that style. Okay, that's all. That's my box component. One little trick that I'll add to is that we can actually destructure this props object, especially because we know we've only got one prop. So I can just say color here, and then I don't have to access props.color. I can just say color there. So just to point that out, you'll see this in React code a bunch. When you've got a stateless functional component, you can just decide what props you want to take out of the props object. Now that we've got that component and we've we've got all of our state set up. Let's iterate over that state and then turn them into components in our render method. So the first thing I want to do is map over that state and turn it into JSX. And I'll use our box component. We'll need a key because this is going to be a list of boxes. And the key I'll just use, I'll use my ID. I'll use my index here. And then the color will just be the box. In fact, I should probably name this color so it's a little more obvious. This is just the color of the box. All right, so now I've got an array of 32 JSX elements. Now I just want to render it in here. And let's take a look at what we've got so far. Oh, I need to start my server. Okay. All right, so now we've got 32 boxes, but they don't change yet. So now we have to set up a set interval to change a random box. So back in my constructor, I'll set up that set interval. And all I want to do inside of here is choose a random box from that array and then update the color of just that box. And remember not to change anything about state directly, but only make a copy of the state to be updated. So let's do that. And again, it's important here to use an arrow function because inside of this callback, we're going to use this.setState, and we want this to refer to our app. And so using the arrow function uses the this in the surrounding context, which will be the app component. First, I make a copy of my boxes array, and then I just want to pick a random index to update. Now I've got my random index. Now I just need to change it. Remember that this is a copy of my boxes array, and these are just strings. So no harm in just directly updating this new boxes array. Okay, so I've updated a box's color. The last step is just to call setState. All right, that should do it. Let's take a look. And as you can see, we're getting 32 boxes that are randomly changing color. So that's all. In the next section, we'll move into more about state and how state works with the virtual DOM and with events in React. So there's a lot of interesting topics coming up. Stay tuned.